Hello, everybody. Welcome to Colab Friday. Really excited to have you joining us. This is a event where we get to just talk with a few developers who built cool things with Cohere's language models. With me today is Luis Serrano, my colleague, one of my heroes. Welcome, Luis.
Thank you, Jay. It's great to be here with you. You are also one of my heroes. So it's great to co-host this with you. And yeah, very excited. We have a lot of great demos today. We have some news that we're sharing ourselves, and it's gonna be really fun, like usual.
Amazing. Yeah, really looking forward to it. So it's no doubt it's a absolutely amazing time for NLP, for AI. Everybody's like on the edge of their seat, sort of following up with the latest developments, the latest models. But nothing really gives you the sense of what's going on, quite like playing with the models yourself, building with them, and then seeing, talking with people who are actually building with them and seeing sort of how they think about it and what kind of abstractions they build in their heads. That always sort of is super fascinating, which is, I'm really excited to have these three teams we'll be speaking with today, who will show us a few of the things that they've built and, how they're thinking about building products with NLP. So really excited to get to that. Before we do that, I'm excited to hear about sort of what you have been up to, Luis. Well, what have you been working on recently?
Yes, thank you. No, I echo what you said, that we love building the models and working them, and the creativity of the groups that we see in these hackathons, and these things are really special. What I've been working on, I think I always like understanding how these models work in a deep way. And we're building a bunch of content as NLP University. So the one we're active right now is the module on transformer. So basically a 0 to 100 in how transformer models work. We have several posts with videos, and they are on basically embeddings, similarity, semantic search, attention. The one coming out in a few days, it's going to be a transformer one. So it's basically putting it all together and really explaining how transformer works step by step, just kind of in a very intuitive way. So I'm very excited about that one. Definitely keep an eye. It's going to be on the Cohere blog, and then we're going to have an actual place where NLP University will live, that people can just come and learn anything about NLP and large language models. So very excited. And you yourself, I've been reading your posts, and you put some really good stuff on generative AI, right? So why don't you tell us a bit about that as well?
Thank you. Yeah, that's been a little bit of my focus. Yeah, a couple of the blog posts on the Cohere blog. So a lot of people are coming into this and trying to think about, how do these models, change how we do things. There's a lot of hype, and people sort of have to cut through that hype. And so put out a list of observations that I've had that I think are useful for people in how they think and how they approach how these technologies will affect different things. And so a few of these ideas, like one, don't think of them as minds. Think of them as capabilities that you can use to build intelligent systems that are able to process text. And so two families of, let's say, capabilities: language understanding and language generation. And then just breaking down a little bit of when you build a product, what can differentiate you? If you're using an API, where is the value sort of going into that? And so we identify in the second article called AI is Eating the World, we identify a few of what is called moats, or competitive moats, where you as a product builder can differentiate yourself from competition. That can be either prompts or chains of prompts, but also it can be fine-tuned models. But then we also point out that, don't be focused completely just on the tech. The business modes still are extremely important. And so if you have access to proprietary data or distribution or network effects, that's always sort of really important for you. Even if you're building the most cutting edge language AI product, you should be focusing on that. So that's a little bit of the most recent write-ups and what they discuss. So those are on the Cohere blog, and I think the ones that you mentioned on NLP University, that's on YouTube, right? There are a couple of blog posts, but
there will be, yep, they live on YouTube blog, and they live in Cohere blog at text.cohere.ai, and then they all have YouTube videos well attached to it that lives on the YouTube channel, so you can go from either way that you like.
Amazing. And I'm extremely biased when it comes to you. Like, I learned convnets from your famous videos, a lot of concepts. When I learned something, I just searched, did Luis explain this or not? So,
oh, well, it works both ways, because I'm always asking you about AI, and I learned from you, and the transformer posts that you have are wonderful. So
amazing. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So yeah, I think we can sort of start with talking with our incredible teams who will be presenting some of their work today.
Yeah, absolutely. We have what, as I said, one of the most fun things is to see all this wonderful projects. So we have four projects today, three teams and 4 projects, because one has 2. And the first one is going to be Eric Perez, who's going to have a project about Dungeons and Dragons called Duns and Drags. Eric was the winner of the Meetup Dev Hackathon, a really, really big hackathon we did recently with a creator called Meetup Dev. And he won that hackathon with a Dungeons and Dragons game, where you go in and you start, click and building the story. The story is built with generate. Actually, he'll talk more about it, so I don't want to take the whole spot. But there's you can roll dice. Really, really cool game. So Eric, take it away.
Hello, Luis. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Fonseca, and I am the main programmer of Duns and Drags. As well as saying, Luis, Duns and Drags is a variation of this popular game, Dungeons and Dragons, where everything is made by AI. Everything. The images was generated using AI, but Cohere was used to generate the stories, generate the entities. Even the dungeon names are generated using AI. So get started. This is the main page. And here, I think you cannot see. Okay, let me show you. Sorry, I shared the wrong. Well, the character creation page have itself a module named name generation page, which was manually coded using hidden Markov models. There is an algorithm of AI that takes a large amount of data with names and generate some new names. And here you can choose which male, from male to women. And so here are some dungeons. The name of the dungeons was also generated using Cohere AI. Then you can play any dungeon you want, and the entities are generated using the large model of Cohere. And then the entities that we got from Cohere are labeled as neutral and NPC and hostile and boss. That entities are labeled using the small model of Cohere. I came up with this idea when I was thinking a project that could be useful to show a bunch of capabilities of NLP and AI and machine learning. So I thought that a game was an interesting way to close up this world of AI and NLP to the world. So you can choose any dungeon you want. Here you have a map that has been populated with the entities generated by AI, but Cohere AI. You can move through the map using that squares in the center of the page. You have your stats. You can raise up HP, some level, get some gold, get some attack, defense, and all the common stats that you get in a normal D&D game. So here is where Cohere AI comes out of play when you request that generate the start of a story and leaves it incomplete. So given the name of your character, the entities that was previously generated, Cohere AI generate the start of a story. Then with the result of the roll of the D20, you passed it a result. So Burley won and loses and dies. And Cohere AI throws back at the end of the story so you can keep playing. This game has unlimited possibilities, so it's awesome. It's pretty awesome. So I think that any question you want here is how I structured everything. How do I use every model? So the small and the X large nightly model, to the static dungeon name generation, entities generation, entities labeling, the stories generation and story end generation, hidden Markov model for the character name, and how the entities that lives in together into the game ecosystem relates each other. Everything using AI, as I said, is pretty amazing. So if you want to make me any question.
This is very cool. I think you mentioned that the images are also generated.
Yes, I used the LexicaArt page to generate image with some compositing using Photoshop and so. But yes, all the images was generated using AI.
Amazing.
So you used the Lexica's own model, right?
Yeah. Lexica has its own model.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. So you trained your own model for the characters, and then you used the Cohere generation models for stories. And what kind of prompts have you sort of experimented with? Like how many prompts let's say you would say are involved in this whole process?
So when I started, the first thing that I did was the static dungeon generation name. So I just wanted a simple sample of names for my dungeons. So I requested literally give me a simple sample of names used by different dungeons in the D&D game. And the AI came up with a bunch of names, sort of 20 or so. And then I started with entities generation. Within the entities generation, I look up for different entities for different dungeons and biomes. So I told Cohere AI, if in the Magic Forest there are unicorns and goblins, and so just give me some samples of magical creatures that can live in the dusty desert, on the hilty winds, on the void citadel. So the Cohere AI can complete the sentence entirely. And that was the way that I found to generate entities based on the biome that is actually living. So the entities labeling was sort of the same. I told if an ochre is hostile creature and a dog is a neutral creature and an elf is an NPC. Tell me what a dwarf is, or what a mommy, or what that kind of prompts. In a story generation service and the story end generation, I put it in the prompt all the data that I know, so the name of the character and the current biome and the level and all of data that I know, so the AI can give me the start of a story. I shorten it, set up some temperature. I played with the temperature, the top K and top P, and so sort of params. And after some adjustments, I came up with this that works pretty well, in my opinion.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, you described also like a chain of prompts, right? Where initial generations of the name, of the biome, of some character information are used. So you generate them and then you use them and in another prompt sort of to get even more details from the model.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's an advanced sort of concept around prompts, I would say.
Yes, a couple of questions. I'll read them to you. And it's from LinkedIn, from Jacobo. How will you describe this project and its challenges, innovations to someone who doesn't know anything about these type of games?
Sorry, what? I didn't hear the
The
question.
question from LinkedIn is, how would you describe this project and its challenges and innovations to somebody who doesn't know anything about this type of games?
Okay, I think that precisely the main innovation of this project is that every adventure is different, as well as every story is told using AI. There are infinite stories that are generated every time you play a game. You can play several times the same dungeon, and always you have prompts and stories different. Sometimes are correct, even the times that are not correct are funny. So the stories are some sort of funny that the way which came up with an awkward idea or an entirely different idea that you looked for is sort of funny. So I think that this is the very value of using NLP and AI for generating this kind of games.
And another one says, can we know about what model pipeline used? I think you mentioned that.
So yeah, I think I mentioned small and large.
Yeah.
We can take that
exclamation. So
yeah, we can respond that in
everything is public. Everyone can go to my link to my GitHub profile and see what's going on. It's open source and it's free to use.
Amazing.
And if you had to add more features, what are the next ones that you're thinking of?
I think that we can improve the game mechanics. So I'm not an expert in game modeling and a game system. So I think that improving the game system, the input control, so you can move your player by the arrow of your keyboard and that kind of stuff could make this game a commercial use, not only recreational use only.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Eric. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
It's really, really exciting. Like generating assets in games has been, quite big in the past, but now we can do just, more than just a new map. Procedural generation is a big thing in gaming, and I'm excited to see sort of how that comes to characters, dialogue pretty soon in the future. So thank you so much. Moving on to our second demo. It's my pleasure to be welcoming Amir.
Hi, folks. How is everyone?
Amazing. Really excited to have you with us. This project is quite a favorite of mine. Really excited to hand it over to you to present it to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before I start, I'll just like base off what Eric said. I genuinely think that that's such a good idea. Like we've seen stuff from Unreal Engine's new prompt generations, like previously some things that would like only be seen by AAA studios, like mass for terrain generation now can be just done like with 5 lines of prompts, and it's just like an amazing era to be living through. And yeah, like one of the main things that I personally like these language models as is basically gathering useful information from data that we already have. So like kind of like grep on steroids. That's what one of my friends called it that. So basically you feed it all this information, and instead of going to like your command nightly model or whatever and asking it based on the data that it already has and scrape through the internet, you feed it your own data, and then you kind of tell it to sieve through that data and give you anything that you find interesting, right? This is Docuchat, a project of mine that is just like did as a hobby, and it turned out pretty good for me. Like in general, I just started doing it on weekends, like a few lines of code here, a few lines of code there, on absolutely like a free plan. Like I didn't pay even a cent for this, and like it's a fully functioning website. I can give you the chat link in the chat if you want to go check it out. Here you go. But yeah, so my original idea was that we basically adopted GitHub Enterprise at like our workplace, and there was a lot of documentation there, and then I would just go on the documentation site and search stuff, and it would just like not make any sense. Like I would ask it a question and it just would give me absolute bogus, right? So I was like, what if you were to use semantic search on like any existing documentation? This is just a POC work for GitHub documentation, but if you just give it any sort of file and kind of train it on that, it will work as intended, right? So it's something really fascinating to see us like go through. And as a result of me doing this, I just got recently pulled into a POC project under VP of Cloud and Technology at my bank. So we're working on basically an application for customer-facing employees to kind of thieve through credit card and like insurance information. So this is really interesting stuff, and like do projects like this. It does matter, guys. Like you do get something out of it, right? So let's get started. Okay, so normally what you see out of a web page is basically like it's connected to like a database. You either like SQL query directly into it and then like do some magic SQL, like I don't know, contains, or you use an Algolia or some pre-existing indexer that was set on top of your database, or you would use like some like cloud service, so like Cognitive Search or Google's own version, or AWS's like Elasticsearch, right? But there's a lot of limitations with this, right? The traditional search methods that I've just talked about usually like look at synonyms, they look at like fuzzy search, user data, but they don't really consider the context of what's being searched. It just looks for synonyms or like what's already in that query. It doesn't look at the semantics of like what I'm trying to ask it, right? So for example, this is from GitHub's own documentation, right? How do I fix insecure packages in my repository? There's this feature in GitHub called Dependabot that is basically the answer to this. So all these results should technically be about Dependabot because I'm clearly asking it about insecure dependencies and packages, right? But there's only one thing, and it's just it very briefly goes over it, right? That was like my kind of original motivation. And so what would a normal person solution nowadays be is that, hey, just go ahead and ask ChatGPT. This is Timmy. This is let's say this is just an intern at some company. He's very ignorant, and he definitely cheated on his essay. He doesn't know about like the downsides of just using these generated models to like get your own data, right? Now, a professor of mine, John Wang, recently posted something on LinkedIn that he got a really weird answer on one of his tests. Basically, the student memorized the answer and just output whatever he memorized from like his own choice of LLM on there. And there's a problem with that. Like these language models largely hallucinate, right? They can't be relied on as a source of truth. And that's where we use semantic search with vector similarity to really fine tune this data and get rid of that hallucination problem. That's where Cohere comes in. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of a overall structure of what I have in my app, right? So there's an indexer that is that basically runs when I want to, like, okay, I have this documentation, I really want to index it and I want to search it later on, right? So if you look at the left side, it will go look at the docs and it will index them. There are multiple approaches to this indexing. Some of them is just they read the whole thing, and then they kind of just feed that into the indexer. They divide it into sections. So like if a document has headings, you divide it into like subheadings and you would index that, or you would summarize it first and then feed it into the indexer. I think the approaches are called read, retrieve, read. So there's different approaches that they have. And then you would pass this data, whether it's the heading, the summarization, into Cohere's API. This is actually a real version of what the servers look like. There's 3 fallback nodes. So if Nick is down, it would go to yeah. And then you would ask it for the embedding and it would return you the embedding. That's a really big array of numbers that you can then store on a database, right? So whether it's a vector database like Pinecone, or it's like Postgres, I've been playing around with this a lot lately as well, Postgres and PG Vector. Really neat stuff. Like it just adds a new column on your like existing database and you can query it like seamlessly, or you can use it with Redis as a database with vector similarity search. And it's super fast. It's as if you're doing a normal SQL. And how it works basically on the front end, you have your web page. Someone comes in, like let's say Artemi, and he asks about how to secure his dependencies on GitHub. Timmy's question gets embedded using Cohere's embedding API, and the embedding comes back to the web application. Now it will search the database on that embedding to find the top 10 kind of closest vectors to whatever you've searched, and it will return those semantically relevant results instead of just some bogus that like a normal LLM would return, right? And this is an example of that same question returning 1, 2, 3, 4 proper results, right? Definitely one of the things that I wanted to add to this demo was a chatting feature, but I really wanted to keep it on the free tier just to showcase the power of like what you can achieve with a free tier at this point. So go out there and demo. Like honestly, with companies like Vercel, like Pinecone, the free tiers are amazing. You can pretty much get whatever you want up to speed. Yeah. So that's it on my end. If there's any questions, I would love to answer.
Amazing. Yeah. No, thank you for taking us through that, Amir. So just to, let's say, summarize, you crawled the documentation of GitHub. You had all the pages, maybe 200, 300 pages, and then indexed those and then created a search vector. For whatever is on the website now, what the database are you using?
Absolutely. So currently on my website, I'm using Pinecone. It's a database meant for vector similarity search. They actually had like mentionings of Cohere, so I think you guys kind of go back and forth together. And basically, very has SDKs on every language that you want. You would go in, use the SDK, create an index, and on that index, you would push in a vector across some metadata as well. So if you do want to store that summary on it as well, you could do that for sure, right? So a vector and then whatever metadata you want, it would get stored on it. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Yeah, we have some guides on in the notebooks repo of Cohere about how to build semantic search. But I think the approaches version of your slide also poses a good question. So do you embed each document? Do you embed each sentence, each paraphrase? There's a lot of, I think, great knowledge inside of semantic search that sort of is different from one use case or another. And I really like your approach of even having, summaries being a part of that that index. I think that's one really interesting approach that I've seen.
That's a great question, actually. What I used personally was the summarize endpoint of Cohere. So let me zoom in so you guys can see this better. So this is just some text that would pass in whatever the doc has as an input for the summarize endpoint. And the summarize endpoint can take a lot of text. Like that's what was so surprising to me versus like a lot of these LLMs. You can pass it quite a hefty like amount of text. I think it's like 2,000, 3,000 tokens. And it would return you a shorter version of it, just briefly describing like what that piece of text is, and then that would get embedded. You kind of bypass like the limitations of the embedding endpoint by using the summarize to like trim it down to like the really valuable information.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great approach. Thank you so much, Amir. I think we can, yeah, refer people to check out Docuchat. All the code is open source. I'm glad you sort of open sourced it so people can use it and just deploy it right away. And there's a great write-up as well on the README that explains it. So thank you for, building it, sharing your knowledge and experience with us here today, but also, open sourcing that stuff for people to try out. Thank you, Amir.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Amir. Great job. And I've been actually searching things on the demo there, so it's very cool. Yeah, we have a few questions and in the Zoom, and I guess I invite you to answer them there. Yeah, love it. We're moving on to the next presenter, which is actually the group Menlo Park Labs, which will be Misbah and Mona. And he'll be presenting, Misbah will be presenting about the two projects. So the first one is Ask Quran, which is a really cool chatbot for question answering, and the way it's done is there is on the Quran, but from what I understand, you can put different databases of there that will be a chatbot on anything. And the next one is sorry, the name it's AI brand intel, which is a Twitter. It's to help you search on Twitter things like hashtags, etc. So very, very cool, both of them. So let's see, Misbah, take it away.
Thank you so much, Louis. Yeah, it's an honor to be in the same room as Louis and Jay, definitely. So thanks a lot for inviting. Yeah, so I'll start with the background info on what the motivation was and how we went after solving the problem, and then we'll kind of look into the demo as well. So these were part of hackathon projects. Let me quickly share my screen over here. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of the Ask Quran project, the motivation for us was starting with the team. So we had a team of individuals from across the globe, working together. So with different backgrounds. And it kind of helped out, and also backgrounds in terms of language and in terms of the work they do. So we took different parts of the problem and solved together. The objective overall was the text of Quran. It's in Arabic. And it's quite rich, actually. People who speak Arabic might know it's quite rich in vocabulary, quite rich in grammar, in all aspects of language. So we want to see if we can perform semantic search on that. And that would basically help us set up a system where we can take any text and then perform semantic search on that. So similar to what Amir had mentioned. So I appreciate Amir kind of making it easy with the diagrams you had. So similar pattern was basically followed, where we wanted to take the query of any user. From there, perform semantic search. So you kind of embed the query. Then from there, go on to look into the vector database, and then just see what is most similar, and then generate a response and provide that response to the user. So we utilize similar architecture as what Amir had mentioned. We're using a Pinecone vector database, calling the Cohere embedding API. And in our case, we use the multilingual semantic search, and it has done wonders, to be honest. So I've been telling people that the multilingual embedding API is a treasure. So if you want to explore use cases, give it a try. It does wonders. So kind of going from there onto the demo itself, feel free to play around, and I'll just change the tab over here. So right now the app is just we just deployed test version of that to Cohere, and what you'll see is it's just test version at this point. I can ask any question, anything what you might want to ask in Quran. So in this case, I'll just ask, okay, what's mentioned about the kindness towards parents? And then what it's going to do is, as mentioned earlier, it's going to look into the vectorized form that we have of the text, and then it will search for the answer and generate the response based on that. So it's taking some time right now. Just Vercel is powering up, but I would highly encourage for anyone to test out, ask questions, and it will just kind of go and look for answers and generate based on that. So yeah, in theory, we wanted to kind of start with one book, as mentioned. Right now, we do have a system where we can take basically any of the 100 languages supported by the embedding API, embed that particular book or text, and then ask questions based on that. So a system similar to what Amir had mentioned, but this is using, again, the multilingual semantic search. So what I want to do is kind of transition from here onto the next app. It also builds on the multilingual embedding API. And then from there, maybe we can go on to the questions. So as Louis pointed out, in this particular case, brands want to monitor their what audience is talking about them in global context, right? So their brands maybe all parts of the globe, and all languages are used to describe about the products. And the issue is any particular language might probably be heard or not heard. It depends. Companies need to employ people who can monitor these mentions. So that is quite heavy on resources. So one way we can solve it is, can we offer a solution which can understand all these languages, and also not just understand, but also generate response based on that a brand or documentation of that brand. So that was kind of motivation for us. And together with Mona, we looked at kind of aggregating all of this, let's say, mentions of the brand in social media, news article, blog post, maybe reviews. This could also be reviews about the product or the location of the business or so, and just bring all of the data together into the platform. So I'll kind of show you the demo, how it looks like. And once we have that data together, now we can perform many different things to it, right? So that's what we kind of utilize. And Cohere offers so many different APIs that actually it helped us a lot with what we wanted to do. So, for example, if there's a news article which is quite long in any language, now you can use Summarize API to summarize that, shorten it, and also provide a result in your particular language. So we did that in our application. We embedded documents. So these are something, any brand or company or organization want to embed, be it internal documents, external documents, legal documents, policies, any of that in. And we just basically, so in this case, we use Quadrant Vector Database. And it could be basically done with any of the vector database supported. But we found out that Quadrant, they also have a self-hosted version that helped us a lot. So it's basically everything open source. So they have a cloud offering that you can utilize, or you can do a self-hosted. So we utilize the self-hosted version. So anyways, with that, you can save these vector embedding and then perform analysis, right? So kind of looking now, this whole architecture, keep this in mind. Now we'll go to the actual demo itself and see how that works. So you can go to the website, it's aibrandintel.com, and just play around, make an account. It's free to use, so test it to limits. Definitely want to hear what your thoughts are. So the first part of that is the social mentions, as mentioned, right? So what we are doing over here is we're aggregating results from about 11 different social media sources. So any search term will be pulled. So in this particular example, I searched for Cohere AI, right? And I want to see what's mentioned about Cohere in last few days or so. So yeah, I mean, if you look to the results, there are different mentions, there are retweets about perhaps what Cohere announced, and quite a lot of different things going on, right? So this could be in any language. So right now it seems like there's a lot of mention in English, but again, this could be from different parts of the world with different languages. So what I could do is, let's say I'm a social media marketer for Cohere, and maybe I'm more familiar with a language which is different than English. Okay, so in this particular case, I'll just say, okay, I'm comfortable with maybe Arabic. Okay, so maybe Jay can help me translate if this is done well. So what I'm going to do is I'll just say, okay, I'll just open one of these tweets and say, okay, what language is that? Let me detect that, right? So my user preference language is Arabic. Now it's going to call the Cohere API. And first thing is it will detect the language. So it says, okay, the detected language is Arabic. And since I understand Arabic better, it will translate that for me, saying that, okay, this is what the tweet meant. Okay, so now I'm comfortable reading this. And yeah, perhaps, Jay, I'll just, rely on your judgment over here.
Yeah, I'm biased, but it looks good.
All right, cool. So next is basically, once we have the translated version, we could generate a response, right? So we want AI to do that work for us because, again, why not utilize something which makes life easy for us, right? So it's going to go back and then it'll look at the tweet. It'll, see what's the most appropriate response. So it could be a concern, or it could be something that we want to make, we want to address to, and then it will generate response in Arabic, and then also a response in the post language. And this is a language that the initial person, or whoever entity they posted. So it's in English, so we can reply this response back in English. So that's one part of it. The other part is the response based on document. Maybe that user asked a question. So if that happened, how do we respond based on our document, right? So that's where this whole area of training a document, that's what we utilize, what Emre had referred before. So over here, you can upload any document or upload a URL. And what I did before this demo is, I embedded a few different links. And then based on that, I could either perform a search within those documents, or I could respond back to any of the users. So maybe I'll just search for multi. Yeah, I think something along those lines. So it'll just look in that vector database and it'll go back and it'll say, okay, multilingual is mentioned, something along those lines. I think movie recommendation. Some of the results did not turn out right. Of course, it's a demo. But again, you get an idea that it'll look for the most relevant context. And also, we wanted to make it where it's easy for people to quickly perform this whole embedding, as well as kind of searching through that. So I'm going to look at one of these documentation. So I see that there's an article about multilingual semantic search using Cohere and LangChain, and I just want to utilize that for my future generation of the results. So I'll just say, okay, use this. and I'll embed that. So it takes, about 10-15 seconds or so. And this is performing the embedding. And I think in no time we'll see that, now it's available. Now I can, perform a search. So maybe I can search about, not just mention about LangChain, but maybe next one we can search how we can use it with Cohere. So it'll basically look in the vector database. Now it'll say, okay, these are the things that you can do. This is where you can start. And it also generates the answer, as well as it gives you some references as where to start, or maybe what you can do. So yeah, with that, basically now you can, search within the embeddings. You can generate a response. If someone mentioned about LangChain and Cohere, now you can generate a response and say, okay, this is how you can basically do something with both of these libraries. And not just that, I think the one last aspect is the news area. Right now we're aggregating all of these news. So over here, this article is in Hindi. This was something I was looking for, just I think Etihad Airlines or so. So if it's quite long or so, you can summarize using the summarize API. Look for the sentiment of the article as well as translate. So again, thanks to Cohere for the APIs those are offered, all of this is now possible within the platform. I think also one last thing I want to mention before I end the demo is that right now we're just performing a search based on the news APIs that we're aggregating results from, but in future we also want to embed those, so those are embedded, clustered, and we can basically give a summary of topics around any given search term. So if someone said, let's say an airlines, Etihad Airlines or so it'll just summarize saying these were all the news channels or news sources that mention about Etihad Airlines, and this is where you can read, or just summary of that. So that's something that we want to kind of build next, as well as the chat with documents. So that is a feature that can help brands as well. So thank you so much. Back to you, Louis and Jay.
That's really incredible. I love that, it shows the technology, but it also shows how you're building your own comfort with, in the beginning, it's chatting with a document and semantic search. And then you're just composing a much bigger solution to a bigger problem, where that is just one tool of many, where it's generation and retrieval. And you're also plugging into other APIs, translation. I think that's an incredible, let's say, evolution for any developer. First, you'll go and, chat with a model, have one generation. But then the more you build, you're like, okay, I have these 10 different ideas that I can compose and use in my AI toolbox to build, let's say, really fascinating things. And I think you, and all of the presenters today sort of showed really excellent sort of command and mental dexterity with how to think about these problems. Thank you for showcasing those.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo that. It was amazing how you take this is a really cool tool for education and anything like that, because you can take any, as you mentioned, you can take any database and just answer questions on that, and it actually makes it really fun to learn, and you really combining, as Jay said, generate, search, and a bunch of different things. So yeah, kudos, congrats.
Thank you so much.
What have just final question, and we're piping from the chat. Just have you tried multiple search or vector databases in the process? Have you compared them, or have they all sort of been similar in your experience? What was that like?
Yeah, for the first application, we used Pinecone. So it did quite well. And then for the second application, Quadrant. So I haven't done a comparison, but both of them have performed very nice. Yeah, for the application we're building. Okay.
And were you just doing nearest neighbor search, or complex sort of queries?
Yeah, in our case, just nearest neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and we tested out with just different metrics, or just kind of cosine versus some of the other available ones. So yeah, those were the tests we did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was different for different uses, but yeah, that was the only test.
How did you evaluate it?
I'm sorry?
And for evaluation, how did you, what metrics did you use to evaluate?
So it was probably very rudimentary. So just kind of looking at answers that we're getting from each of those. So we had a few questions that we were kind of benchmarking against. And then, yeah, there were some, which were answered a lot better with one technique than the other.
I would say that's more common than you think. A lot of semantic search is like the looks good to me test, is like, running
and generating as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much
you.
for that demo. Really suggest to people, check out the demos. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Yeah, and so as we normally, I normally say this in our hackathons, the most fun part of our job is to look at these winners. The hardest the part is to decide which ones win. This time we want to remind you that these projects are all winners, because they're the Dungeons and Dragons is winner of the Meetup Dev Twitch hackathon. The Docuchat by Amir is outstanding demo on Discord, and Ask Quran is the winner of the Cohere hackathon, and AI Brandon Tells winner of the multilingual semantic search hackathon. So they're all winners already. And the most fun part is for us is to see them. The hardest part is to pick a winner. Normally we pick we have a pick of the month, and we've been just crazy on the chat here trying to figure out. And I think the most complicated transformer model will not be able to actually figure out which one of these 4 is the winner. So we've decided to say they're all picks of the month because they're all amazing. So congratulations to the 4 winners.
Yeah, so pick of the month is a badge on Discord. So I'd love to invite everybody to join our Discord. We all learn together. Like, all this technology is super new. New things are coming every day, and like we're all learning together through building together, sharing, what we learn, what's new, what works, what doesn't work. And the Cohere community is this place where we build together. And so we invite you, if you're watching this, to come build with us, share the things that you've been building, and join us in the next Collab Friday. Maybe you can be presenting one amazing thing that you're building. So we'd really invite all of you to join us, and let's learn together as a community and build better and better and more amazing products like the products we've seen today.
Yeah.
Incredible. And with that, I think we've come to the conclusion of this month's Collab Friday. Thank you so much, Louis. Thank you to all of our presenters, and thank you for everybody who's watching us. Again, invitation to join our Discord, and we'll see you in the next one.
Let me over here and say thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Great to see you all.
See you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.